I'm sitting on the ground.
Hey, we got a forum. So.
I don't know. She's remote? Okay. She must.
Mayor Hines, Councilman Sellers is remote, but she can talk to you. She's unmuted.
Okay, good.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning, Linda. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. At this time, we'll call, well, that's pretty loud today, the Wednesday, September 9th City Council meeting to order. Cassandra, you're getting my cards? Okay. Okay. But we'll start with the invocation. Robert, did you give the invocation this morning? Sure. Okay, would y'all join me?
May we bow. Our gracious and most heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for opening our eyes to see this beautiful day. We thank you for your grace and we thank you for your mercy.
Yes.
We thank you for life, health, and strength. And God, we pray for our country during this time of uncertainty, and we ask for blessings upon our city and our staff. And we pray for wisdom and knowledge for our mayor and city council, that our decisions are beneficial to our community and pleasing in your sight. These are the blessings we ask in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible.
liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from July 8th.
Move
Meeting.
to approve as presented.
Motion by Westbrook,
Second.
flip a coin.
Flip a coin.
Second by McKellar. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Now we have a presentation by George Roberts. Is George Roberts? Yeah, there's George.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Glad to be here this morning with y'all. So we have a PowerPoint to share with you this morning. There we go. That's our updated dashboard from yesterday, September 8, 2020. You'll see there that we have, since March, we have 3,457 Smith County confirmed cases of COVID-19 and 543 probable cases. Our recovered patient count is now 2,828 of the confirmed cases and 334 of the probable cases. We've had 57 Smith County residents who have passed away from COVID-19. And there, as of yesterday, there were 107 East Texas patients in Tyler, Texas hospitals. So we're now almost 6 months into this journey that we began in this room on March 13th, 2020. So where are we now? The virus is still with us, and we must continue to take these measures in the coming days. And as we've talked about before, first of all, stay home when you're sick. We encourage everybody, stay home if you're not feeling well, if you're sick. You may have COVID, you may have something else, but please stay home when you're sick. Number 2, social distancing, stay 6 feet away from each other. Number 3, wear your mask when you're in public, mainly to protect others from you. Number 4, wash your hands often for 20 seconds. Number 5, cover your cough and sneeze. 6, clean and disinfect those surfaces. And number 7, keep your hands off your face, eyes, and nose and mouth. And these measures are crucial to protect older adults and persons with underlying medical conditions who are at risk for more difficult struggles with COVID-19 than our healthier population. So now we have several charts I want to share with you. And the first one is, there you go, Sandra.
I like the drum roll.
Next slide. There we go. That's our net health COVID-19 daily new cases. And you can see from that there that we had a pretty strong spike in the month of July. The 2 major days there in July, there was one day we had 250 cases. But the numbers have kind of appeared down. We've had our numbers have appeared to be slowing here for the last week, couple of weeks, so that's good news. Next slide. This is our net health active case rate of COVID-19. Again, these are the patients that we said we have 556 active cases as of yesterday. Again, active cases is defined as total cases minus recovered cases. So at this point in time, Smith County's rate is 31.54 per 10,000 population. Next slide. This is an interesting slide here. This is something I'm really kind of paying attention to. It's our net health 7-day rolling rates of COVID-19 by county. And you see there in Smith County, we're at 10.43. That's down from last week. We were at 16.45 last week. So that's a nice decrease there. You see Gray County's at 12.68. Anderson County's at 17.07. But you see right now 10.43 really, that's kind of a good way to see how is this deal trending for us right now. Next slide. This is our net health COVID-19 case rates by zip code. It's kind of hard to see up there, but it's basically what you're looking at is the case per 10,000 per zip code. And so if you look at that, the ones that the highest rates in the community by zip code appear to be 75702, 75706, 75708, and 75709 zip codes here. Next slide. This is our COVID-19 crude attack rates by county. So this is basically, since we started the rate per 10,000, so it goes back to that 3,400 and whatever rate was yesterday, 3,457 confirmed cases. So the rate that we have right now is 146.81. So that's all the people that have been diagnosed with COVID-19 from the start. So 146.81. Again, Gray County is a little bit higher than us. Anderson is a little bit less than us. If you look at, I've looked at this in other counties like McLennan County and in the Waco area, Denton County. Denton County appears to be less than us, but McLennan County appears to be more than us. So, and of course, Dallas County and Harris County appear to be higher than our rate as well. Next slide. So this is the net health COVID-19 combined race ethnicity distribution here. So again, this is for values in which we're known. And I think I've told y'all before, we aren't always given that race ethnic information. So for those that we know, in our 7-county area, roughly 49% of those are people who have been tested positive are white, 28% are Hispanic, 21.4% are black, 0.5% are Asian, and 0.3% are Pacific Islander. Next slide. And we haven't any data on drive-through, so this is probably repeating the data right here, but this is the racial demographic breakdown of drive-through testing. Again, that appeared to be a higher Hispanic population than the white and African-American population. Next slide. This is Smith County COVID-19 deaths by race. You see the white population had 23, Hispanic 5, and black 7. And again, we don't always know the race. We don't always know the race on the death. We get the information. It's not always given it to ethnicity. Sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't. Next slide. And this is our 7-county jurisdiction. Again, white 92, Native American 1, Hispanic 13, and African American 16. Next slide. This is an interesting slide here. This is who are the people that are dying with this disease? And we've known from the start typically it's going to be your older population, and it's kind of, you see the bubble graph there. You see the higher number right there is around the age 75, 76. You see 9 people have passed away that are that age. Then somewhere in the 85, 86 range, we've had a lot of people pass away. But you see the higher preponderance of that is the 64 and older population. Our youngest person was here in Smith County was a 24-year-old, but that person had a lot of medical complications involved there. I think our oldest person is in excess of 100 right there. So, but you see that guy, the numbers right there kind of show that somewhere between 64 and 90 are seem to be your biggest group of people passing away. And again, as we said early on, the people who pass away from this, or people who have real hard time with COVID-19, are those that have other, what they call comorbidities. It means they have other health issues going on. Early on, we knew that half the people that were hospitalized in hypertension, a lot of people have type 2 diabetes. If you're 65 and older, basically half of those people had heart disease. So lots of comorbidities with people who are being struck with this. Next slide. Here's our age distribution here. And we talked about this in the past too, but again, it just continues to show the highest cohort of people who have COVID-19 or been tested positive is that 21 to 30 crowd. Your social group there. And then you look to the 11 to 20. I'll show you a slide here momentarily. But you see that 491, but then 598 to 31 to 40, 529, 41 to 50, 516, 51 to 60, and it starts to go down by, once you get over 60, it seems like those people are probably being a little more careful when they're out in public. So your largest demographic group right now is your 21 to 30 age group. Next slide. And then this is just overlooking all of our 7 counties we work with here. Again, same information here. So it's your 21 to 30 crowd that has the highest preponderance of this. Just like it's looking at the 91 to 100 group, 139 of those folks. So 1595, so that by far away is your highest cohort, followed by the 31 to 40 crowd. Next slide. This is an interesting, we looked at this recently, and I thought this is interesting to kind of keep in front of you here. So in our kids, what age group of kid is typically getting this? And you see there your pre-K, your K through 5, your 6th through 8th, but look 9th through 12th in college group. So as the kids get older, it seems like, maybe as they become more adult in their bodies, they're seem to be catching COVID-19 at a higher rate. So they're obviously more social creatures as they get older too. So 524 and then 916, obviously in your college, you see that age group popping up there. The next slide. This is kind of interesting slide here. This kind of shows you that same information there, but broken down by ethnic group. You see there the like K through 5, your Hispanic group. Hispanic age group is, K through 5 Hispanics are typically the higher cohort there, demographic. Also in the 9th through 12th grade group, the Hispanic group was higher. The college age group, it looks like is the white was slightly ahead of Hispanic.
Is this Smith County numbers, or is this system-wide?
This is system-wide.
For your system-wide?
Yeah, the 7 counties, again, that's a good question, Mayor. So again, the reminder, the 7 counties that Net Health works with is Smith, Gregg, Anderson, Henderson, Van Zant, Wood, and Rains. Next slide.
Yeah, go ahead.
And then Net Health COVID-19 by age group. This is looking at go back to the 7 counties, Mayor, that you just asked about. Get that kind of, look at that. Let's back up just a little bit. There we go. Look at that stair step there. It seemed like as the kids get older, they, particularly the 15 to 16, that's a pretty good jump there between 15 and 16 in the age groups there. Next slide. Then this shows you all the counties, the gender breakdown. Early on, it seemed like the males, you had more men that were testing positive for COVID-19 than females, but it looks like now that the females are just about every county, there's more females that have tested positive than males. Particularly Smith County, it's a pretty, roughly 400 gap there in male and female in Smith County. Gray County is a little bit almost the same thing. So again, more females than males that have been testing positive in our area. Next slide. And then this is the mode of transmission. If you remember early on, it was basically people were bringing it into the community to start off with. We had lots of travel, and now it's pretty much all community spread. So you see that the male communities. Yeah, the male travel is pretty slight there in the age groups, but it's pretty much, like I say, it's all male community and female community spread. And is that it? I think it's the last slide. Okay, so just a few other pieces to share with you today. And contact tracing has been one of the big things that we've had. We have around 24 people that are helping us with contact tracing right now. This includes 12 of our own staff, plus a number of individuals outside of Net Health. Again, want to thank the staff within the City of Tyler Fire and Police Departments for their assistance with contact tracing. And contact tracing is an essential piece of this effort to talk to people, encourage them to self-isolate if they are positive, and to not spread the virus. And we also seek to have the same discussion with their direct contacts so they can those people can self-isolate and also contain the virus as well. Testing, local providers have access to testing, but they require that you have symptoms of COVID-19, such as, and here are the symptoms. You remember early on the symptoms were fever, cough, and shortness of breath. Well, now that's expanded greatly. It's now fever or chills, cough, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, fatigue, muscle or body aches, headache, newly acquired loss of taste or smell. That tends to be one that if you hear somebody that says that they're feeling bad and they've lost the taste and smell, it's like, that's a kind of a giveaway right there. Loss of appetite, sore throat, nasal congestion, runny nose, diarrhea, vomiting, and nausea. And the Texas Department of Emergency Management has set up a free test site at the Tyler Senior Center, 1915 Garden Valley Road, and we appreciate the city of Tyler making that space available. But it's available Monday through Saturday from 9 to 2. So if you want a free test, you don't have any symptoms, go over there and get that. Hospital update. We continue to be in constant communication with our local hospitals. We receive a dashboard that tells us the number of positive and suspect COVID-19 patients, and then there also, as well as their available ICU beds, their hospital beds, ventilators, isolation rooms, and their status of PPE. At this moment in time, the hospitals continue to be very busy, but they are able to care for those who need it. In our Emergency Operations Center, we have talked to the hospitals on many different weeks, and we've asked them specifically. They show us their numbers, but we also ask them how are they doing, and they pretty much have said we're surging, we're making it work. We've been able to through the Texas Department of Emergency Management, been able to get some extra staffing in to help them, which has been, they tell us it's been a huge deal for them. They tell us right now their outpatient positivity rate is tracking around 20%, so people coming in, which is down since my last report to you. And if you look at our overall positivity rate since we started, just taking the number of people tested positive and the number of lab tests on the state website, we're around 8%. So again, that number fluctuates over time. School update. Schools in Smith County started during the week of August 17th. We've been in close contact with the ISDs in Smith County to answer questions and concerns and to give them guidance upon request. We've had conversations with schools as to how to handle positive cases. And when there is a positive case at a school, the schools have been advised to immediately start the contact tracing process. And it's recommended that high probability contacts be sent home to quarantine for 14 days. And the schools also report their positive COVID-19 cases to our organization on a daily basis with any contacts that are being sent home to self-isolate. And as of September 8th, the schools are required to submit weekly reports directly to the TEA on the number of positive COVID-19 cases as well as their contacts. And just talking to the schools, it appears that roughly 2/3 of the students returned in person. 1/3 remote learning. This figure will be different per ISDs. I've heard up to 80% in some ISDs have gone back to school in person. And I applaud our community, our parents, our teachers, our school, our staff, and our students for all the preparations as well as their actions to date that have been made to get our kids back to learning. Again, thank you to the City of Tyler for your support during these last 6 months. Mayor Hines, Mr. Broussard, Chief Coble. I don't see the chief in here this morning.
Yeah, he's
He's
here.
here, okay. Chief Coble, Chief Toller, Captain Walker, Ms. Wells, and Ms. Goodgame, who spent countless hours in Emergency Operations Center meetings, along with the added phone calls, texts, and emails. There have been numerous other city employees in the fire, police, and legal departments that have given their time and energy to this effort as well. And again, a special shout out to my staff at Net Health, who have worked tirelessly during this time, not only in COVID-19, but have been there for our WIC clients, environmental health, lab, TB control, immunizations, vital statistics, and our Center for Healthy Living. And finally, thanks to our Smith County Health Authority, and he's retiring officially at the end of the month, but he's here today to answer any questions that you might have. So, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. So, I'm open to questions now.
Well,
Dr. Levine, you want to join me up here?
Yes, because I've got some questions for him.
I'll keep my 6-foot distance here.
It is interesting. I mean, it's, we don't want anybody to have COVID, but the demographics are matching the demographics for the city of Tyler, what you put on the screen. And also, the schools in our community are majority Hispanic now. And so I can see why those numbers, I know it's a 7-county area, but that would make sense for Tyler as well. But my question for Dr. Levine is, I know flu season's coming up. And one thing that I hear on the national scene, and I don't understand it, is yes, we have a flu season coming up, but do we really expect COVID to increase or decrease, or because it really hasn't tracked a flu season yet? You know, because everyone said when it was going to get hot, it was just going to, the numbers were going to be 0, and it didn't go to 0. But so kind of talk about the flu season. I know that's important coming up, but also what do you think about COVID during the winter months?
So, Mayor and City Council.
And since you're retired, take as long as you want to talk.
Mayor and City
go.
Council, thank you for the opportunity to provide input and answer questions. That's a great question. Regarding the flu, one thing I would say is that though we have concerns that individuals can develop influenza and COVID simultaneously, which is certainly not a good thing to have a co-infection with 2 viruses. That probably is a little bit more the exception than the rule in general. From a clinical standpoint, it can be a little bit confusing when people develop symptoms as to whether or not you're dealing with the flu or with COVID. And there are some things that we can do because of available resources to more readily manage the flu by reducing the severity of illness and how long it lasts. So what I mean by all that is that the more that we can eliminate the scenario where people are getting the flu, the less confusing it becomes and the better we are able to clinically manage cases of COVID and certainly flu separately, but hopefully that's not the case. Now, certainly some have said that influenza, a virus in terms of its transmission not entirely dissimilar to COVID, the fact that we are taking all the same typical measures for COVID that we would for the flu, that perhaps that alone will reduce the burden of flu transmission this season. I certainly hope that that will be the case. You know, every year we tell people, right, cough in your elbow, wash your hands, long before COVID, because all the same measures have to be taken to reduce the burden of flu illness in any community. Let me just speak to the issue briefly about the vaccine, flu vaccine. There's not really a date, a single date, right, that is the best date to get your flu vaccine. At this point, the recommendation from the Centers for Disease Control is that sometime in the September, October timeframe, the more people that we can get vaccinated, the more likely we are to reduce flu transmission, some of these confusing pictures, and quite frankly, me personally, this is not a CDC idea or construct, but we are eventually our hope is that we're going to have a second vaccine for COVID, which is very different. And so what I would encourage people to do right now is go ahead and get your flu vaccine as if COVID were not an issue. Get that out of the way. Make sure that you take all the measures to prevent yourself from getting flu, because there will come a time where we'll have to decide if hopefully during the course of this next several months, you're going to get a second vaccine. We did this, if people remember, not so long ago, in 2009, 2010 with H1N1, where we got the seasonal flu vaccine, then we had to get a second vaccine. A lot of confusion about that. People are like, well, I already had a vaccine this year. Why am I getting a second one? Is it really safe? All that sort of thing. And so optimally right now, any time between the middle of this month now and the middle of October would really be a good time to go ahead, and if it's available to you, go ahead and get your flu vaccine.
Yeah, because I normally take it, I've always been told to take the flu shot around Thanksgiving. My father-in-law, that was what he would tell me. And so, but this year you're saying people ought to take it September, October. Now, is it going to be available?
It
Is
is
it
already
available?
becoming available.
Okay, good. Okay.
And there are two things, if you'll indulge me, about this time frame. One is, generally you're right, we get it sometime, by November. The reason we do that is that one thing we know about the flu is that the vaccine has a period that it's particularly effective during the season. And so it's about a 6-month period. And because the flu season usually peaks in January, February, and then begins to decline in March, April, we want people to have the protection of the vaccine over that entire 6-month period. The reason I think the CDC is saying, well, go ahead, September, October, is not because they don't want you to have that last month or two of protection in the spring. It's that the more we emphasize this now, the less likely people are to wait until December, January, and so forth to begin to get the flu vaccine. If you do that, then we'll start seeing the problems that I described earlier, the confusion, what disease do I have? Have I been able to sort of keep the flu down while we're continuing to deal with the COVID issue?
Yeah. Makes sense to me.
Well, Dr. Levine, I've got a question also too. In recent years, especially in the hardest hit influenza outbreak areas, health authorities and infectious disease specialists have encouraged 2 flu shots, one early in the season in that September, October, early November range, and then another one in Christmas, January, that type of thing. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that is not the standard recommendation for the Centers for Disease Control to have repeat flu vaccination during a given season. There are some differences in flu vaccine preparations for different age groups. Certainly in the 65 and older, there's a little higher dose vaccine because sometimes it's a little more difficult to get an immune response in the older individuals, so we give them a little higher dose, and so you're eligible to receive that special vaccine if you're in the 65 or older age group.
Unfortunately, I'm in that category.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
First, I want to thank Mr. Roberts for his update, but 2 questions for me. One is, you mentioned about the school district and the positive cases there. What is their process for sterilization of those classrooms or the school period during that time that they have positive cases? And then the second one would probably be for Dr. Levine. What's the difference between the shortness of breath and the difficulty in breathing?
That would definitely be for him. The sterilization process, I know that in Lindale, I know they closed down their elementary school over there, Velma Penny, and we talked to the school superintendent about that. He made that decision. And it wasn't students, it was several of his first grade teachers came down positive for COVID. And what they did do a cleaning of the school and basically said, we're going to do a timeout, clean the school and then start back. I think they started back either yesterday or today, one of those days, but they just took a 2-week break and they cleaned the school. So, yeah, so that's one way to do that they're doing. But that's the only school that I'm aware of that they've actually had to shut down. Dr. Levine?
So that's a really good question again. So sometimes, I think if you think back when as all of this has transpired in 6 months, for all of us, we used words somewhat indiscriminately, with quarantine, isolation. They seem to be the same thing. Actually, they're very different things. The same is true for difficulty breathing and shortness of breath. So really, the original description from the Centers for Disease Control is shortness of breath. And that is because we understood COVID to be what we call a primary lung disease, meaning that the virus gets deep into the lung, causes a pneumonia, causes an inflammation in the lung, and that is where we take oxygen out of the air and put it into our blood. And so when we can't do that effectively, then that is perceived by us as a shortness of breath, which is usually a sense of air hunger. I'm just not getting enough air. And particularly if I exert myself in some way, I'm just not getting the air that I need. Difficulty breathing can mean a whole variety of things. Tightness in the chest, it can mean painful breathing, so it's a much broader term, but the one that we're searching for here really is that shortness of breath or air hunger, basically.
This is probably going to be for you. Regarding the numbers of all the positive cases, and I've heard people say, well, I went to go get tested and they were going to charge me, this amount of money. What do you think the numbers are of the people who are actually just walking around with it and don't know it because they don't get tested or can't get tested?
Oh, gosh.
I mean, do you think those numbers are more? I mean, probably maybe a third more.
I really don't have a good I really don't have a good answer to that other than say we know there's more. I'm sure there's people walking around town that are positive, and the deal on that is a lot of times people may have it and they may be asymptomatic.
Right.
And that's been a lot of, particularly in the younger crowd, and this be asymptomatic spreaders of the disease. So we know that there's more, but I don't have any hard and fast data to really answer your question and say I know that's 10% more, 20% more. We just know that there are people in our community that are walking around and they may feel a little bad. They may have some of the, think about the times that you may have a runny nose or be a little sick, have a little bit of cough. Well, most of the time we guys will just kind of suck that up and go.
Right, exactly.
But a lot of times, people that may be, you may have it right then.
Yeah, because
or you may have a cold.
When you were naming off that list, I'm thinking I've had all of that. But
Yeah,
I'm sure. But I'm sure we all have
You
at
sneeze
some
this morning,
point.
it's called allergies.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
attribute to allergies or whatever. We've all had that at some point. So I'm sure there's a lot of people who walk around who are asymptomatic.
But there's asymptomatic. It's asymptomatic can be just you're feeling just fine. You have no fever, really nothing going on, but you're carrying the virus with you, and that's typically you find that more in your younger crowd than your older crowd too.
So I want to follow up on Roderick's point that he made as well. The Tyler Senior Center, there is no cost for that facility.
Correct.
Anybody can go.
It's no cost, and it's basically paid for by Texas Department of Emergency Management. So,
Is this a daily or is it open daily?
It's Monday through Saturday, 9 to 2 right now. And I don't know. Right now, I think it's through the end of September right now.
Oh, that's good.
But
Okay.
the numbers aren't really high of people going over there right now. So I would encourage everybody, if you're concerned, to please go by there. Encourage people to go by there between 9 and 2 and get a free test.
Okay.
And it's not it's either a cough into your mask and do an oral swab, or it's
It's open till 4 o'clock.
it's open to 4 now. Thank you.
Yes.
So that they've increased the hours. So that's good. So,
Okay.
but it's not a nasal swab anymore. So it's not quite as invasive as it was before. So please encourage people to go do that.
And I want to follow up on Dr. Levine, and I know we're taking a lot of time, but the question that I asked earlier, I don't know if you want to take a stab at it or not, but is COVID what we hear on TV, that it could increase during a flu season, or decrease during the heat, which it did not. So what's, do you want to take a stab at that, or do you not?
Sure, and let me, maybe a follow-up, Councilman, to the question about asymptomatic. We use this, and again, it's all in the words. We talk about asymptomatic carrier, okay? So, medically speaking, carrier means something a little bit different. Typically, it means something that people have for a long period of time that they carry around with them. So, asymptomatic cases are not carriers in the classic sense, right? They just like everyone else, they have the virus, and then they build an antibody response and it goes away. And they're never symptomatic during that time, but it's not like they carry around the virus with them and can shed it for months on end, okay? So that's an important point, because if, to the extent we can get at the number of, at any given time, how many people are asymptomatic with the infection, the best we can probably do right now is look at our positivity rate. So what that means is if we could get a good random sample on any given day of people being tested, both with symptoms and without symptoms, and we know how many of those are positive, then it gives us a little sense at one point in time about what the positivity rate is in the population at large. And right now, we're seeing numbers that range anywhere between about 8 and 20%. That does not mean that up to 20% of the entire population of this region has been infected, right? And that goes to the second question of what we call herd immunity. So if you've seen this Dr. Ulsterholm from Minnesota, he'll talk to this issue. But we're quite a ways away from this concept of herd immunity, meaning that, you know, in some areas like New York, that they had such an intensive outbreak that probably a lot more of the entire population was infected. Here in Texas, we've had some areas like that. In this region, probably not so much so. So, you know, it's a guesstimate at this point, but we're nowhere near probably that herd immunity. Until we get to that point, and just looking at this graph, which is what I like to refer to as this sort of smoldering, we went up, high point, and we kind of went down, and we're just kind of in this flat zone. I think this is going to continue to be a smoldering issue, as we've seen, irrespective of the seasonal change, for several months to come, until we can get closer to a herd immunity situation.
Okay.
I hope that answers sort of both of
Yeah,
your questions.
okay, yeah, the numbers where we are, that'd be nice to stay. It'd be
Yes,
great
sir.
to, would be zero, but I mean,
Right, it would allow us to do what we tried to do originally,
That's
which is
correct.
the medical community be able to
That's
address more severe cases as they come.
yes, that's right. That's right. Okay, so any other questions of George or Dr. Levine? Okay, thank you all.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, George.
Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
And I'll get the report from tomorrow too, but it'll be a lot of the same information that we talk about on Thursdays. So at this time, I do have one card, Mr. Brewer, if you'd like to come up.
Let's see, do I have 3 minutes or 5 minutes today?
You can do 3. I mean, no, you do 5. I'm sorry, you're the only
It's
speaker
only gonna
today.
be 3, so I'll take my time. So anyway, thank you, Mayor and Council, and thank you for the opportunity you provided last time to speak. Today I intend to speak about our laws, the virus, violation of our laws, and the consequences of those. James Madison wrote, "The future and success of America is not in the Constitution, but in the laws of God upon which the Constitution is founded. Those laws include equality at creation and God-given unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Why do I say these here and now? Because there are two levels of law in America. There's number one laws, those are God's laws, and number two laws, everything else. The number two law, everything else, are to protect the number one laws of God. Every elected official in America swears an oath to protect and defend via the Constitution, God's laws. When man infringes on God's laws, bad things happen. As happened to a person I should know better Wednesday morning at a local hospital. That person was arrested and jailed out of an ER recovery room because of an inability to wear a mask due to health reasons. The arrest, despite being prohibited by Governor Abbott's Executive Order number 29, resulted in 8 hours of solitary confinement without a phone, Bible, pills, or a pen. A trial date has been scheduled. The arrest was clearly a violation of unalienable rights, but COVID violations extend beyond masks and include a multitude of other things, including medications. Legal medications that, in consultation with our doctors, could protect or save lives. Unfortunately, our right to choose legal medications is also being restricted by man. Specifically, a man who restricted legal HIV drugs from HIV patients in the late 1980s. That same man is restricting legal medications from citizens that wish to protect themselves from or possibly cure a COVID condition. If legal drugs and doctors were not being restricted, it is quite possible that we would never have worn masks, that schools and businesses would never have closed, that churches would not have been restricted, and that we would never have lived in fear of a virus or of a government gone out of control. It is also quite possible that that person that I intend to know better would not have spent 8 hours of their life in jail. Thank you.
At this time, I guess we'll move on to H1.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning.
Morning.
Regina Moss with the City Attorney's Office. I'm here today on the Encore Electric Franchise Ordinance. I will point out that the reading schedule has been adjusted slightly from my last presentation. Council did not take a vote to move that ordinance ahead to the next public reading, and I want to make sure that we're in compliance with the charter. So we've added one additional reading to the reading schedule. The last franchise was adopted in 2010. No changes have been made to the proposed ordinance since the last presentation that was made to council on August 26th. Highlights again from the ordinance that is before you, the term has changed from a 10-year term to a 20-year term, so you won't have to adopt a new ordinance for another 20 years if this one passes and is adopted. And it still consists of, or contains a two-component payment term, meaning you've got the municipal franchise charge that is a statutory per kilowatt charge that is contained in the ordinance. And there also is a discretionary franchise fee, which is 4% of gross revenue charged by Encore for discretionary charges. With today's reading, the final franchise ordinance could be adopted with 2 additional readings finally on October 14th. And at this time, it is requested that City Council open the first official public hearing on the proposed ordinance, and that at the conclusion of that official public hearing, Council does take a vote to formally approve the ordinance as presented and move it to the next public reading.
So I'm opening a public hearing right now.
Yes.
I could use this.
Yes, you do.
Okay, right now I'm going to open up for a public hearing on H1. Is there anyone that is here today that would like to address this item? Seeing no one here and not having any cards, Cassandra, is there anyone on the telephone for this item? No, sir. Okay, so now I'll close the public hearing with no comments. Now, we have to take a vote to move this forward.
Yes, you can entertain a motion to accept the ordinance as presented and move it forward to the next public reading.
Do I have a motion to do that?
So moved.
Motion from Broderick,
Second.
second by Westbrook. Any questions? All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Linda is an aye as well. Then that's all you need.
That's all
to
I
move it forward to the next. And so will it be approved on October 14th, or is there another reading?
Well, that would be the final
It could be
reading.
approved or not approved.
Yes, so
Right.
the next two presentations will be the second and third, with the third being on October 14th for final adoption.
Okay, so there'll be another one
Yes, you'll see me again.
in October,
Mhm.
the beginning of October. And then, no, the end of September.
Yes,
And then the first meeting in October. Okay, great.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Regina.
Now we have 01. Kedrick, are you gonna do this?
Oh, R1.
R1.
Oh, R1, I'm sorry, I apologize. Yeah, come on. I normally push you to come up to the microphone and you were already up, raring to go.
She willfully ran out.
I know you only have,
Excuse me.
so you don't have that long left, so I just thought I would do this.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good morning, Mayor. I'm Cassandra Brazier, City Clerk. This morning, I'm coming to you to let you, and I'm surprised you wanted to skip this.
No, I know. That's right. No, I do not want to skip.
Okay. On March 25th, 2020, Tyler City Council passed a resolution 2020-15 for the postponement of the May 2nd, 2020 election in accordance with the governor's proclamation issued March 18th, 2020. It is now necessary to pass another resolution to call the election for the next uniform election date, being November 3rd, 2020. Attached, you will find a resolution ordering an election to be held in the city of Tyler on the third day of November 2020 due to the postponement of the May 2nd, 2020 election for the purpose of electing a mayor at large and city council members for single-member districts number 2, 4, and 6, without otherwise adjusting the term of office and making provisions to contract with the county elections administrator to furnish election services for the conduct of a joint election, and resolving other matters related to such election and moving of said election and establishing effective date. So at this time, I'm asking that the city council consider adopting a resolution calling an election for November 3rd, 2020 to fill the offices of the mayor at large and Tyler City Council members for single-member districts number 2, 4, and 6 on the Tyler City Council, and calling for a joint election with Smith County.
So moved. Second by Broderick. I do have a question. Now, when they are creating this ballot, this is different for us because we're a nonpartisan election, and it's going to be on a November ballot with a lot of choices of Democrats and Republicans, right?
Right.
Where are we on, not me, but where are those on the ballot going to be?
The ballots,
Because this is the first time anyone in Smith County has ever done this.
the ballots that I have approved for the wording, you're at the very bottom.
Right, and rightly so, right?
Yes, so.
Yeah, believe me, rightly so. I've served for 10 years, I know. Yeah.
So,
But, so, we're at the very bottom of the ballot, and it's not a partisan deal. So, if you're gonna vote in city elections, then you vote for all the partisan races, and then you've gotta go all the way to the bottom to vote. And I think that's I'd heard that from you, and I think that's something that we need to be talking with to the public to make sure that everyone that's voting understands where the candidates are gonna be for office, for municipal government.
Right. And also to keep in mind that early voting is October 13th through October 30th.
And that's different. Normally, we only do a week for city elections.
The governor extended it a week.
Oh, did he?
Yes.
Okay.
And there will be no DRR beside those names. That's how we can.
Not for the city,
That's
right, yes.
Okay, so, with that, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. So now on to 01.
And Mayor and Council, what we'll do is, I'll do the primary presentation here for the budget, and then Mr. Trimble and I will work through the 01, 02, and 03 with the council for budget adoption, as well as fees and fines adoptions as well.
Okay.
So, you ready, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, sir.
Please.
Mayor Hines and City Council, thank you for the opportunity to be before you this morning for one of our most important roles in governing and administering this municipal government, the adoption and plans of services for the coming year, in the form of our proposed $202 million budget for operations and capital improvements. In my 2 decades of leading municipal governments, this has been one of the most difficult years I've seen for budget administration and development. We praised the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget at this time last year as one of the most effective budget documents we've built with our plans for the current fiscal year, which implemented new technology, moved up maintenance for buildings and replacement of vehicles, and ensured that our public servants had the equipment they needed to improve the citizens' quality of life. Yet, as with all budgets that are adopted, they are a plan for the future. It states our intentions for the next 12 months, built on forecasts for what we can expect using the insight of our past experiences.
So did you plan on having construction going on at the same moment that you talked about
You know,
improvements?
it's driving me crazy, but yeah, we'll say yes, that was planned.
That was planned very, very, yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, go ahead.
For fiscal year 2021, sales tax revenue continues to be the main funding stream for our general fund activities. The general fund are the services that do not generate their own revenue as our enterprise funds do, and include such functions as the police, fire, parks, library, municipal court, streets, and traffic control. Our projections for property taxes are based on the rate I'll discuss in a minute, or approximately 32% of the general fund budget. An interesting note on our property levies is that the amount we bring in, approximately $23.5 million, barely covers the budget for the fire department at $19.6 million. This is why we continue to work on different revenue streams for our general fund services to protect the franchise fees, grants, and other revenue opportunities beyond property tax. We are recommending a rate below the no new revenue rate, property tax rate for fiscal year 2021 to the council. Your current ad valorem property tax rate is 25.99 cents per $100 valuation, and we're proposing through this budget to adopt a rate of 25.90 cents per $100 valuation. This rate reduction will bring our rate below the no new revenue tax rate set out by the Texas legislature in 2019. This property tax is the lowest of cities over 15,000 in populations in Texas and reflects the values of the blueprint as set out in 1995. Our property tax rate is significant as it does not have any debt components associated with it. For every other tax rate that is set in the state of Texas, from counties, cities, and school districts, nearly every one of them will have a portion set for debt repayment or interest and sinking. The city of Tyler has every dollar collected on its property tax levies going straight to our operations and services for the public. Every penny paid by our citizens is used towards maintenance and operation of city services. In line with this dedication to improve services, 2 cents of the 25.90 cents tax rate go to the Street Commitment Fund. This budgeted amount of $1.63 million for the next year is used on street crack sealing and seal coating to prolonging the life of our primary investment in the city. Tyler continues its steady and strong growth on property values with a 3.7% increase in values over the past year. For the past 5 years, we continue to be on the range of 4 to 5% growth in values, which allows for predictability and sustainability as we build our budgets. This year, we experienced closer to our regular rate of growth in values and additions, which reflects the confidence that our citizens and newcomers have in Tyler as a location for residential, business, and industrial growth. There's an interesting story that's reflected in this graph that I hope is noticed. We are currently experiencing tension and stress with our budget for this year and into next year's proposed budget, but it is not stressed as the budgets we went through during the Great Recession. Growth and values went up so quick that when they burst, the decline was sharp and long for the next few years. Our steady growth around 4% allows for bumps and bruises without crashing the system and needing large property tax increases. We can take smaller steps to modify where needed and maintain the services needed by our citizens. With our agreement with the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, on the consent decree in 2016 and commitment to improving our water quality for our customers, we have increased our rates on water and wastewater services for the past 5 years to pay for the costs involved in operation and capital improvements. We still compare very favorably to the rest of the water wastewater services prices in Texas. Using the Texas Municipal League annual utility cost survey, we see that our rates are considerably lower on residential water fees and similar or lower on wastewater fees depending on usage as compared with other cities' utility rates. On the previous slide, we showed the bar graphs relational to the current and proposed rates. We are proposing a $2 base rate increase on both water and wastewater rates to be effective on October 1st. The regulatory compliance fee, which pays towards debt associated with our wastewater collection system improvements as required by the EPA, will stay at the same amount as last year, $6.13 per month. With our bond refinancing measures and consideration of using the Texas Water Development Board for future bond financing, we can keep the regulatory compliance fee flat for the coming year. To meet the requirements of the EPA consent decree, the city is expected to spend nearly $250 million on improvements to the wastewater collection system. We have been building up cash through our wastewater rate increases, but we will need to borrow $213 million to pay for line replacements, manhole repairs, and other capital improvements. Our previous financing solution was going to the bond market, but we have been examining the use of the Texas Water Development Board as a funding solution. This is a state program with interest rates lower than the open market. In fact, they are currently at 0% interest. In our evaluation of future debt needs and expected interest rates through the Texas Water Development Board, we can reduce future interest payments by approximately $74.5 million over the life of the 30-year debt. The requirement for use of the Water Development Board funding is to have and utilize a water conservation policy. Tyler is one of the last cities in Texas that does not comply with the state's water conservation policy, which requires for users to pay a higher rate for the more water they use. Our current rate structure is designed as a declining block rate structure, meaning the cost of water used decreases as usage increases. In this structure, there is no incentive to reduce the amount of water used for future conservation measures or extend the life of water sources. For our use of the Water Development Board, we propose putting in place an inclining block rate structure. This will have the unit cost of water increase as customers' use increases. This structure revision is expected to generate the same amount of revenue for the water fund as customers with higher water usage may find measures to reduce water usage as intended by the state's policy. I do note that this revision will not be effective on October 1st, but instead go into place at the time that we need to borrow from the Texas Water Development Board. We expect this to be in September of next year. To give a better understanding of the change to an inclining block rate structure, we put together the chart on your screen. There are different rate classes developed to reflect our types of users, from single-family residential, multifamily residential, commercial, governmental institutional, industrial, and irrigation meters. The classifications have rates built from our cost to produce water at $3.17 per 1,000 gallons. For residential customers that use less than 10,000 gallons and continue to use the same amount of water, the monthly increase will be equal to the proposed base rate increase that I mentioned earlier. For residential customers that use between 10,000 and 30,000 gallons, the increase would be between $4.44 up to $25.92, depending on the amount of usage. For those higher water users, which will be in your governmental, institutional, and industrial rate categories, we will work with them to provide estimates on possible impacts with the changes to give an opportunity to budget for or make changes to their water use. Our wastewater rate structure is based on the same categories, with the basis as the cost to treat wastewater at $3.26 per 1,000 gallons. With the use of the funding through the Texas Water Development Board and the new rate structures, we are able to hold off on future substantial increases to the regulatory compliance fee. I mentioned earlier that we were able to keep the fee associated with debt repayments to $6.13 for the coming year. Our earlier models had this fee increasing to $36 per month in future years based on using the open market for debt. The Texas Water Development Board funding will keep this fee much lower, more in line with the current fee level. We did make adjustments to our residential rate with this current fiscal year for solid waste, and we continue to our annual review of rates for future increases. We continue to incrementally move residential customers' rates so that residential services are not subsidized by commercial accounts and better reflect the true cost of service. The coming year's rate change is 33 cents, bringing the monthly rate to $17.03. We do consider our rate in relation to other similar sized cities in solid waste service costs. Our rate is lower than most of our benchmark cities, of which we are providing twice a week service, which most of them are not. We are also proposing an increase in the tipping fee at the landfill from $42 to $47, which is paid by non-residents when taking items out to the landfill. The state legislature adopted new laws in 2019 to prohibit cities from charging residential permit fees based on valuation. Valuation was the method we used, along with many other cities in Texas, to cover staffing costs. Due to the changes in state law, residential permit fees are now assessed on a price per square foot, which is variable and does not allow revenue to track with changes in cost of business or valuation. We are developing a rate structure for permit costs where we converted from valuation to cost per square foot equivalency. The proposed new rate for residential new construction permits is a flat rate of 25 cents per square foot for a new building. An important note, as we see the comparison, the City of Tyler does not charge impact fees, which reduces the cost of the permit in comparison with other cities of similar size to us. I do want to extend my deep appreciation to our budget team of Keeter Trimble, Renissa Wade, Blake Cathy, and Jennifer Pittman for their countless hours of taking the budget proposals from each department and working to refine those into the document we have for review today. I also provide my gratitude to you, the City Council. You provided directions and priorities in discussions and conversations and ideas throughout the year that set the stage for the budget we provided. Our focus on employees, infrastructure, parks, and public safety reflects your vision of our community. I thank you for your service and insight on behalf of the citizens of Tyler. It is a privilege to serve you and present this budget for fiscal year 2021 programs and services for your consideration today.
Any questions for Ed or?
As I say, yeah, any general
Andrew?
questions?
Any general question?
Because we'll then move into 01.
Okay, let's move into 01.
Thank you, sir.
And does he want to explain something before?
No, he and I are tag teaming this.
Okay, Mayor, Council, you have item 01 before you. I'm not going to repeat what Ed just explained to you.
Please don't.
He went through a lot of details, so you have item.
Very good detail.
You have item 01 before you. It's what we call our miscellaneous fee ordinance. And you have a recommendation. You have the ordinance attached with the detail. So it is recommended the City Council adopt the attached ordinance amending and updating fees and other applicable changes to Tyler City Code Chapter 6 relating to building and structures, Chapter 16 related to solid waste, and 19 which is relating to water and sewer.
Okay, do we want to go through 01, 02, 03 separately?
Yes, if I could get a vote on item 01.
Right, now, but, I mean, I do want to make sure that, we have no cards up here, but I do want to make sure that we're opening the floor, as a public hearing for anyone that would like to come up and speak.
And Mayor, if I can, I think I can, let me help.
Okay.
Cassandra, do we have anyone on the phone? No, sir. Okay, I just want to make sure that we do that.
And to kind of help with, I think, what the direction the mayor's going on this one, just to make sure that the council as well as the audience understands. So 01 will be the fees and fines, and your utility, as far as costs, your utility rates, your solid waste rates. Those will be all of those, essentially your enterprise fees that you charge, as well as different fines and the like. Of which the bulk of what you're looking at is going to be related to the 33-cent increase for solid waste services, and then the $2 base rate increase on water, $2 base rate increase on wastewater. Although we do want to make sure that it is also to your attention that this ordinance sets in place the water conservation policy, the inclining block rate structure to go in effect on September 1st with this as well. 02 will be the actual adoption of the budget itself. And then 03 will be the adoption of the tax rate to support that budget. Right. So that's kind of the three items you have before you to kind of the order that we're going to be taking things. So
seeing no one coming up to speak, having no cards and checked with the telephone, we have no one to speak, so we'll close the public hearing portion, and then we'll go to me entertaining a motion to approve 01.
Move to approve 01.
Second?
Second.
We'll let Linda give the second, how about that? Motion by Westbrook, a second by Sellers. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. And then we go on to
we have
02. And is this where I have to read all this stuff?
Yes, Mayor. So you have item 02 before you, which is the actual budget adoption. And there's going to be three steps in this. We're going to do a public hearing, of course, for the budget. And then we're also going to adopt the budget. And then also after that, we're going to take a vote to ratify the property tax increase that's reflected in the budget. So there's 3 steps.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just make sure I read the proper verbiage into the record, correct?
Yes, sir, and just to make sure everybody follows on this one, because it is a bit of a new methodology for tax rate adoption.
Correct.
So you're going to ratify with this one, action, or 02, you'll be ratifying the tax rate that goes to the budget. And then 03, you'll actually be adopting the tax rate that goes to the budget as well. So you're adopting the tax rate twice, I guess.
Okay, so we'll just go through this.
We just follow the law. We don't make it.
Yeah, that's correct. Let's make sure we follow the law. And then Deborah, you're available if I don't read this correctly. So first, for 02, we will now open the floor for a public hearing on the city's proposed budget. Anyone who wants to be heard may come to the podium. Each speaker will have 10 minutes to speak. Seeing no one coming forward, and again, no one on the telephone, at this time, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
So moved.
So moved, but the motion, y'all have to read that. I move to, you want to read that first one?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
I move to adopt the proposed fiscal year 2020-2021 annual budget, adopt the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget amendments, and authorize the city manager to execute particular outside agency contracts budgeted for fiscal year 2020-2021.
Is there a second to Councilman Westbrook's motion?
Second.
A second by McKellar. We will now take a recorded vote of the council District 1 Councilmember Linda Sellers,
Aye.
Councilmember Broderick McGee,
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley McKellar,
Aye.
Councilmember Bob Westbrook,
Aye.
Mayor Martin Hines, aye. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried unanimously. So then on to 03, which,
Mayor, you gotta ratify, we need to do step 3. You gotta ratify the tax increase
okay,
within the
gotcha.
budget. Yep.
Okay, so
And that's a record as well.
is there a motion to ratify the property tax increase in the budget?
Mr. Mayor, I move to ratify the property tax increase reflected in the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
A second by Councilman Sellers. We will now take a recorded vote of the council. District 1 Councilmember Linda Sellers,
Aye.
District 2 Councilmember Broderick McGee,
Aye.
District 3 Councilmember Shirley McKellar,
Aye.
District 5 Councilmember Bob Westbrook,
Aye.
Mayor Martin Hines, aye. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried.
Okay, Mayor, we'll
So
go
we
to-
have another one.
We have another one. We're going to item 03, which is the actual tax rate. So,
Next on the agenda is 03. I need a request to adopt the property tax rate ordinance. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the proposed property tax rate of 25.90 cents per $100 of appraised value.
Second.
And there's a second by Councilman McGee. That was a motion by Bob Westbrook. We will now take a recorded vote of the council. District Councilmember Linda Sellers,
Aye.
District 2, hold on a minute. District 2 Councilmember Broderick McGee,
Aye.
District 3 Councilmember Shirley McKellar,
Aye.
District 5 Councilmember Bob Westbrook,
Aye.
Mayor Martin Hines, aye. Y'all put the last council members on you.
Councilman long ago, yes.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Long time ago.
So the ayes have it, and the motion is carried unanimously. Now,
Thank you,
this
Mayor.
tax rate
Yes.
is lower than the no new tax rate.
That is correct. Thank you for noticing that, sir.
So it just said that I guess that's the language we have to use.
Because you're collecting more, you're bringing in more money, you have to say that you're having a tax increase. But your property tax rate, the rate is lower than your current, your rate that will be effective for the next year is lower than your current rate.
Yeah.
Plus, it is lower, once we finally got the final valuations from the appraisal district, because so much came off for over 65 and other protests, your actual effective rate, as we used to call it, or no new revenue, was in the 26-cent category versus the 25.9 cents.
Right, but because that was the initial number, this is the first year for the no new tax rate. And it was so confusing that the appraisal district, when crunching numbers, did not crunch them properly. Well, I mean, I don't know if that's not fair.
I don't want to call from Carol later today.
Okay, well, that's
y'all
not
didn't-
fair.
They didn't do it enough. It's just, things continue to change during the process.
Yeah, which is very difficult with the new law in the legislature, is for everyone to work through that law. So it ended up that we're actually below the no new tax rate after all the calculations.
You're no new revenue rate. You're below the no new revenue rate.
Yeah, which is the,
It used to be the effective rate.
well, the nice thing is, this is my last budget, and so I don't have to learn the new terminology of what is a no new tax rate and what's an effective rate, because I've dealt with effective rates the entire time, so. I just want to thank staff, again, for making sure that we started this budget process so early this year, because we knew that we had COVID issues involved in the community. The city manager and the staff took extra care in making sure that they communicated with all council members in order to get good feel for what the public was thinking during these months leading up to this budget, and then the amount of work that all the departments did on this. One thing that this is my 11th budget, and I have always been so impressed with the professionalism of our city staff from top to bottom. It's just been incredible to watch y'all create these budgets for the public, and then making sure that you really listen to all the elected officials as we go through the process. It has been such a great benefit for this community to have leaders like y'all. But it's not just, and I will say, it's not just the leaders of the staff. I mean, it permeates through every individual that works for the city, and it's been impressive over the last 11 years watching y'all do magic.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for that. Yes, absolutely. Are there any other comments?
No, you said it best.
Okay.
Thank you.
So now we're on to M1.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning, Lisa.
Item M1 is a construction contract for the Arbor Oaks Drainage and Street Improvements Project. This project is going to replace an existing concrete-lined open drainage channel from Oleander Drive down to a little south of Oak Bend Drive. We'll be replacing the channel with an underground piping system. In addition, we'll end up installing a groundwater collection system along portions of Arbor Oaks and Persimmon Drive to deal with some of the groundwater issues that are in the area and causing problems with those streets. The design is complete. The project was publicly advertised. We opened bids on August 25th. We did receive 8 bids, and Reynolds & Kay was the low bidder at $1,485.62. Staff recommends that we go with this low bid and request that we authorize a construction contract with Reynolds & Kay.
Any questions of Ms. Crossman? Entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
So moved.
Well, Linda said she was going to make a motion,
there you
so. Okay, Linda made the motion, and the second was Shirley. Any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Now on to M2. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Tiffany Curry, Tyler Water Utilities. M2 is the engineering services contract with KSA Engineers for the Consent Decree Group 3 work. This work, just like our previous packages, consists of gravity mains as well as manholes. The gravity main section is all large diameter pipe across the city, as well as all pipes of all sizes in basins 4, 10, 11, 12, 16, and unmetered areas, for a total of about 68,400 linear feet of pipe that was identified as poor or very poor condition that needs remediation. The estimated construction cost is $45,745,956 for the gravity main portion of Group 3. Next slide. And the manholes will be remediated throughout the city, really. We're impacting many basins. There were 3,300 manholes that were assessed, and about 1,500 will be included in this package. So it is the largest manhole package to date, coming in at approximately $3,757,198 estimated construction cost. Next slide. I included a a map of the city where you can see all of the different basins, but with the large diameter work, the manholes, and the gravity mains, we are impacting just about every basin in the city with this Group 3 work. Next slide. Yes,
Yeah,
sir?
Go back, a couple slides,
Okay.
and I'm gonna write down those numbers, not the next one, go back. 4, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, go back to the map real quick.
One more slide.
Yeah,
forward.
one more. Okay, 4 east side, no, west side of town, 10, 11, and 12. Okay. Okay.
Any questions
And
about
that's
that?
in the blue, right? That's obviously why you had it colored blue.
Yes, so the color coding in this map shows our original schedule for inspection of the areas. This package is actually quite a bit larger than the previous two packages because we moved inspection forward on all of the large diameter pipe. We're just trying to get ahead so we can make sure that we're ahead of schedule.
Good. Yes, let's stay ahead.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Engineering services for this Group 3 work consist of design of approximately 1,500 manholes, 68,400 linear feet of gravity main remediation, and we anticipate this will be divided into 4 packages: a manhole package, a traditional gravity main package, 54-inch cast in place, cured in place pipe, and then a package that's 42 to 24-inch CIPP, for a total estimated construction cost of $49,503,154, with an engineering fee of $4,492,700. Next slide. So our recommendation is that the City Council consider authorizing the city manager to execute an engineering services contract in the amount not to exceed $4,492,700 with KSA Engineers for the consent decree Group 3 remedial measures implementation.
Any questions?
Move to approve M2.
Second.
I have a motion by Broderick, a second by Councilman McKellar. I do have a comment.
Yes, sir.
I won't be around, but for this process to occur, I really want to make sure that the engineer works with our staff. And if they see any sort of bidding that's going on that might indicate that we're, just because we have a certain timeline to get all this done, that if they sense that the bids are coming in really high, for them to make sure that they're representing their customer, which is the ratepayers of this community, to be able to raise their hand and say, wait a second, you know, this something doesn't look right. Maybe we need to rebid this. Maybe we need to rethink it a little bit. So that is just my request moving forward, that this engineering contract really make sure they're representing us well.
Absolutely.
And I know we're on a time crunch, but that's still, I don't want to see us get overcharged
Absolutely.
as we go through this process. So
Thank you.
thank y'all. That's my only comment. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. And now we're at the consent agenda. Is there any item?
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Westbrook, a second by McGee. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Linda is an aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Now we're on to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor
And then
and
we're
Council.
adjourned?
Yeah.
No, no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Which is fine. A few items of note for the council. Park Service Day is scheduled for September 26th. Now, due to COVID-19, all volunteers must pre-register before the event, and a location will be assigned to them. There will not be any opening and closing ceremonies this year, but we'll still provide lunch and T-shirts on that day. The art mural on Loop 323 across from Tyler Legacy High School is finally getting repainted. This is the one with all the different roses that all the different high schools here in town participated in. The original 19 artists were invited that painted the hillside art mural were invited, and 7 artists have actually committed to help with the new mural. They'll begin painting this Saturday, and right now the wall is being pressure washed in order to prepare for this weekend. The airport administration worked closely with TSA to coordinate the installation of a new full-body scanner. This has been an item that we've been asked and requested by multiple different people. This project has been on the airport wish list for a couple of years, and the project is now complete and in use. We have observed improvements in the speed of screening passengers. We're also very careful to preserve privacy. There's a generic image of all passengers who were screened through the new image technology checkpoint. Imaging technology screening is safe for all travelers, and the technology meets the all-known national and international health and safety standards. And then finally, Tyler Water Utilities is conducting a free chlorine conversion on an annual basis, and this which will commence for us this year on September 14th and run through October 12th. Tyler Water Utilities uses chloramine as its residual disinfectant. Because of the high potential of nitrification in our system due to its age and ductile iron pipe material, Tyler Water Utilities has adopted an annual free chlorine conversion for proactively preventing nitrification in the distribution system. A free chlorine conversion is a common industry standard for preventive maintenance in drinking water distribution systems. Many utilities throughout the state and country that use chloramines for their primary distribution disinfectant convert to free chlorine on an as-needed basis. The EPA and TCEQ endorse and support this procedure, and for more details, we ask people to go online and review our frequently asked questions. Anything further from the mayor or council?
No, I don't have anything. But I do want to thank the council members. I thanked staff earlier, but thank each and every one of y'all. The council members and the mayor serve for free. We serve because we love our neighbors and our community so much. And I know that y'all spend a lot of time on this budget, and Linda as well. And so I just want to thank y'all very much for your commitment to your friends and neighbors and to our great city. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion approved.
All in favor, aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Huh? Say what?